Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the star line by an actor and theater star. You've seen him on Once on This Island, Newsies, and in the 20th anniversary tour of Rent. Now he's back for the farewell tour of Rent as Angel. We welcome Javon King.
Hi, how you doing?
Absolutely great, Javon. Let's go beyond the mic. Growing up in New Jersey, you played football and ran track. Mm-hmm. What position did you play in football?
Yeah.
What were your track events?
So in football, I was a quarterback for a lot of the first couple years, and then I was a running back for the rest of my 7 years when I played football. And then I also did defense. So I also was a cornerback on the defensive side of the ball. And then track and field, I ran 400, the 800, and 4x4.
Do you miss those times?
No. No, I do not. Sometimes I will say, sometimes during the Summer Olympics, I do get a little nostalgic about seeing track on TV, and I'm like, oh, that could have been fun. But no, I don't miss it.
What were you planning to major in school before you started on your first musical? A funny thing happened on the way to the forum.
That's actually, I really didn't know. I had kind of a mosh posh of things. Growing up, I really was into law. So there was a moment where I was thinking of going into criminal law. There was also a moment where I wanted to go to school for medicine and be a nurse. But ultimately, I auditioned for a bunch of musical theater programs, and the only school I didn't audition for a musical theater program was for a athletic training kinesiology program. So that was probably my route if it wasn't theater.
Now, you were trying out for Kinky Boots before you got this job in Rent. How would your path have changed if you had gotten Lola instead?
I don't think I would be talking to you if I would have got Lola instead. I think it would have been, completely different world. But yeah, I was in school, I was going in for Kinky Boots, and then casting kind of rerouted me because Rent was also going out on the road, and they kind of just saw that this was more of actually a better fit for me at that moment. And the rest is literally history. That was back in 2018. So yeah.
So you took time off from writer, college time, just taking a year off, go on tour. How did taking that, gap year help you give you the freedom in your craft? Honestly,
I don't want to say I recommend it to anyone, but I think if the opportunity presents itself where you're at school, you go to a musical theater program and you're learning all of these skills, but you're only putting it in practice in very slight ways because you're doing it in front of the same people all the time, or you're doing it in your musicals that you're doing at school. And then maybe summer stocks, if you get a summer stock audition or a job during the summer, but to go and actually do what I was learning in school, to do it on tour. I think also being on tour is a completely different discipline than doing it just for the summer at a summer stock theater. But I think I learned so much more about myself as an artist, as a person on the road than I did at school.
Javon, what's a typical day for you when you're out on tour in Rent?
Typical day. I'll tell you about my day yesterday, actually, because we got into Rochester yesterday. We left Philadelphia at 8:00 in the morning on the bus, and we drove to Rochester, New York. That's a gorgeous 5.5 hour drive that we did. And we got to Rochester probably around 3:30, 4 o'clock. We had to be at the theater at 5:30 for a company meeting and sound check, and the show was at 7:30. So yes, our day is very scheduled, but in that little hour and a half, I saw my friend. I got dinner really quickly and went to the theater and started work.
It's time for the Rocky Nate. 8 random questions. Answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. There's no pressure, Javon.
Okay.
Favorite condiment?
Ketchup.
Thing you believe in that others think is not real?
I believe, this is controversial. I believe that Marilyn Monroe is still alive.
What?
Yeah, I really do.
Really?
I do. I believe for years and years she was still alive.
That's wild. Favorite place to vacation?
Dominican Republic.
If you swapped genders for a day, how would you spend it?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I already am playing a drag queen on stage. I think, I don't know how I would spend my day if I had to switch genders. I don't know. I guess sit on the toilet more.
What was the last gift you were given, and who was it from?
Oh, I was given a pair of Nike socks from my friend literally yesterday.
What is one thing that does not add value to your life, but just still do it?
One thing that doesn't add value to my life, but I still do it. Oh my goodness.
Who is the favorite of all the Disney princesses for you?
Oh, easily Belle. Yes, I love me some Belle.
What do you wait to buy until it's on sale? I mean, you will buy something and you'll want it and you'll wait for it, but you'll only buy it if it's on sale.
Usually jeans.
If you're enjoying these conversations, please check out another Beyond the Mic episode to find more actors, artists, and people you need to know. We'd also appreciate a like and subscribe on the Good Pods app. It's time for the back half with Javon King Beyond the Mic. Javon, what's the best thing to do in Manasquan, New Jersey?
Oh my goodness. The best thing to do in Manasquan, New Jersey is to go to Leggett's and get you a Miami Vice, for sure. With a shooter.
Now, there's no shows. So during that pandemic quarantine, you're pretty much artistically stuck. How did you spend that time without completely losing your mind?
Yeah, I am originally from Jersey and then I moved to New York, actually during the pandemic, which was kind of crazy because everyone was moving out of New York and I simply was like, nope, I'm going to move in with my friends that I went to college with. So we're all artists and theater people too. So it was nice to live with them. But in terms of my craft, me and my friend started a YouTube channel just for like fun, where we were just singing a bunch of covers of songs because he plays a guitar and sings and I don't play an instrument and I just kind of sing. So that dynamic worked very well for us. And we always just had talked about it in college. It's just kind of like, we are really good friends and we just love, making music together. So it was nice to kind of just sit down in a room and plunk out some stuff on the guitar and do acoustic versions of songs that you hear on the radio. Because that was really the only thing that we could do. Because you were right, it was nothing coming in. There was nothing to do.
Well, let's talk about the 25th anniversary of Rent. Why is Angel the perfect character for you? And why do you love this character?
Angel just is the epitome of hope and love and, treating everyone with their respect. I think Angel was written at a time where, we didn't see a character with the disease, living with the disease and, having the mentality of I'm going to live my life. And not only am I going to live my life to the fullest, I'm going to do it and make everyone else, give as much love to everyone else as I can. And I think Angel, she's such a trailblazer. And I think Jonathan wrote such a gorgeous character. And I think she still resonates today, 25 years later, for the simple fact of like, I think we all know an angel in our lives who is that person who is kind of like that beacon of hope and light. And it's just, not putting that on, that is just who they are. That's just how they operate. And that's just their everyday being. And also she's just so much fun. Like who wouldn't want to be friends with someone who is dressed in a Santa coat, zebra tights, and 4-inch black pumps? I mean, I would love to be friends with somebody like that.
How are you like Angel?
Over the years playing Angel, I think I've adapted more of her into my day-to-day life. I think she lived her life with such optimism. And I think when I was in college and things like that, going into musical theater school, your optimism kind of falls off for you just because like you're doing this craft and it is one of the toughest crafts to do. It's so tight, there's so many people out there who can do what you can do and better. But I think you just have to stay grounded and know that your story is different and everyone's story is different. But I think for me, I really tap into Angel's love. I really just think that like her overall message of giving love to all of her friends and everyone that she loves is something that I really tapped into because I love my friends. I love my family. And I just really, value them and appreciate them because, every day is not guaranteed.
How has your family supported you on this path? I mean, you go from football and track star to nationwide theater star. What does your parents think?
Yeah, my family is super, super supportive. It's funny because my parents are not theater people. Like they just don't really get it at all. And it's kind of crazy. Like they don't understand the workings of it. They don't really get the behind the scenes actions of it. So my mom is always, so I really don't tell my mom about a lot of auditions because she gets really excited because, she doesn't realize that half of my job is me auditioning. So I don't really tell her unless I get into like final callbacks for things. And then she's like, oh my goodness, why didn't you tell me and all this stuff? And I'm like, because you freak out. And then like, like we hear no more than we'll ever hear yes. So then like, when I am not getting a job and she's just like, well, what happened? And I'm like, I don't know. Like there's a lot of a lot of things that can go into play as to why I didn't get that job or the case may be. But they are so supportive of me. My parents have already seen the show. They saw it last time. I told them that they didn't have to come see it again. It's the same show. I'm playing the same part. But they were like, nope, we're going to come. And my mom is basically my like press secretary. Like she is the woman like getting all of the other family to like get their lives together and buy tickets to see me when I'm close to Jersey or somewhere nearby when they're, down south because I have family down in the Carolinas. So she literally is my press secretary, like, because I just can't call everybody and tell them that like, hey, like come see the show. So like my mom is designated for that. And my dad is just standing by watching.
So what does your mom and dad do?
My dad is a retired fireman. My dad was a fireman for 26 years, I want to say, somewhere around there over in Jersey City, New Jersey. And my mom is a like head exec for a credit union.
Javon, what do you tell the next young man or woman who is struggling with their identity, wants to star in musicals?
Yeah, that's the reason I do this. And that's completely honest. I just think, I do this for representation of someone else who looks and feels like me and thinks that this is something that they can also do. And I would tell them, if you have the passion for it and you feel like this is something that you're being called to do, then I think you should do it. I think there's always room for everybody in this industry. There is, no one deserves to be cut close or anything like that. There's always room for everybody, no matter who you are, no matter what you identify as, no matter what style of music you prefer to sing or whatever the case may be. Like there's room for everyone. And I think we should, open arms, please go after it. It's hard. Don't compare yourself to anyone else because that'll get you in a whole lot of trouble. But definitely go for it. And we'll see you on stage.
You talk about passion. What are you passionate about? And how has your passion changed from when you started to today?
Yeah, I think when I first started, I was very young when I first started the show. I was just turning 21 years old. And this was really my first big professional thing. So I think I was in the mindset of like making sure it was all, letter perfect and picture perfect. And not that it's not the same today. I think I just released that expectation that I have to be perfect on myself because I am playing one of the most iconic characters in musical theater history. But my passion now has altered ever so slightly, and just that I do it less for me and I do it for whoever's in the audience. And that's where I think I get the energy to do the show every day. It's just going out and seeing, people who look like me in the audience and people who are so excited, and all the redheads who come and see the show year after year, which I commend them because I could never see the show more than probably twice. But yeah, the people who come and see it all the time and are so supportive of us, and we really do appreciate it. I really do it for them. This is like such a iconic piece of theater that is really kind of like a timestamp in time. That Jonathan Rossington wrote, and he wrote something that was so ahead of its time when it came out back in the 90s. And for it to be 25 years later, I'm not even 25, and it to still be resonating with people younger than me, that's really where my passion is for it. I want to do it justice to Jonathan and to everyone who came before me and whoever's coming after me doing the show. Yeah.
Mom's been the one losing her mind. When did you figure out that you made it? I know Mom goes crazy. I can't believe my son. But I always want to be better. You're in the role of your dreams.
Yeah, I also probably will not say that I've made it. And I think I am just, there's so much more for me out there. I think I have so much more room to grow as an artist, as a person, as an everyday American citizen, whatever the case may be. Like, I just think there's so much more room to grow, and there's so much more skill that I can learn. And there are so much more things that I can continue to tweak and harness. So I think, especially because I'm literally 24 years old, I think, theater is right now, I think I love it so much, but I do want to venture off and to do other things and potentially film, and, we'll see what happens in the future, but I wouldn't say I made it yet. Maybe I have made it when I have done a bunch of different projects that I'm really, really satisfied with. I don't really need accolades and awards to, feel like I've made it in my industry. I think as long as I am doing theater or doing a project that I really am passionate about and telling a story that I really enjoy for consecutive years at a time, I think that'll be when like, you know what, I've been doing this for X amount of years and I've been doing all of these different shows and projects and things like that are changing lives and telling different stories. I think then can kind of sit back and be like, okay, I think I've made it, in air quotes.
Javon, how does theater feed your soul?
I just love the idea that we don't get to redo it every night. Like it's not like TV and film where you get different takes. Granted, we do get different takes from a day-to-day basis, but in terms of the people who are coming in for that night, what you see and what happens on the stage is what it is. There are no redos. There are no like, let's start again. And I think that
on the top,
yeah, like that kind of like that thrill of like, oh my goodness, like, yes, it's well rehearsed and yes, we've been doing this for so long, but it's like the show is still different from a day-to-day basis. And I think that's what feeds like my soul of like, oh my God, I get excited about it. And then don't let someone I know be in the audience know, it lose my mind when I know that I have a friend in the audience. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is for you for sure. I haven't seen you in so long. Like, oh yes, I'm so excited.
With mom as your press agent, and she puts a friend in the audience, and oh my goodness, he's going to be in the 5th row center. He'll be wearing a red cap. Does that drive you crazy or play in your head?
It does, but it plays in my head because I am like, oh my goodness, like it gives me just ever so slightly like just extra kick of energy that I need. Cause it's hard doing the same show every single day. But I have so much fun doing it, but I always just love knowing that there's someone that I know in the audience because it just gives me that extra oomph. And I'm like, and they always realize it too. They always are like, oh, so you knew I was here. You're doing a little extra. There's more energy than expected or usually that I have, because I have a lot of energy. So for them to notice that I have more energy, it's like, I was like, yeah, because you're here. I'm so excited for you to be here. I love seeing my friends. But yeah, I know. I always know when they're there.
When the tour is over, when Rent is finally finished and you have to move on to your next role, which role is your dream role?
There's actually two.
Interesting.
I would love to kind of just be stationed in New York, and I would love to go and there's a new Michael Jackson musical out. I would love to be the lovely and talented Michael Jackson. That would be really great. But also, there's a nice musical you probably never heard of before. It's called Wicked. I would love to be Fiyero in Wicked. I know, brand new musical. I'm pretty sure no one has ever heard of Wicked. It's something like so obscure,
So your teacher who cast you in A Funny Thing, do you remember them, and what would you tell them now?
Oh man, I would go back even a little bit further than, I would go back to 8th grade when I had a teacher. Her name was Miss Whitley. She was my history teacher in 8th grade. And she told me, Javon, you are so animated that like you would do really well in the theater scene at the high school. Because my high school is known for their theater productions. We're not like a performing arts high school. We were just, New Jersey State high school, where we would get into these awards and do all these things. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll take it into consideration. And then I had to take like a class for freshman year of high school. So I took it as my homeroom. I took musical theater as my homeroom class. And my teacher who cast me, Mr. James Moser, I probably would thank him. I very much would thank him because he gave me my start in theater, and that's when the spark kind of hit. I wasn't anything special in The Funny Thing Happened to Uniform. I was literally just in the ensemble, running around the stage like a crazy person. But I had so much fun, and I was very proud of everything that I did. And I think he kind of got me starting on my itch of like, I like this. I like to sing. I like to dance. I like to kind of get on stage and act not like myself and do something different. So yeah, I would thank him because I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for being cast in The Funny Thing Happened on Way to Form and Miss Whitley back in 8th grade.
If people haven't seen Rent, shame on them, but why should they come see the finale of this tour?
Yeah, the show is so monumentous and so before its time when it came out back in the 90s. But I just think the overall story of a community coming together and, fighting through all of the different trials and tribulations that they are going through. There are people living with AIDS and people who are going through drug abuse in that type of situation. I just think that, we're telling a story basically of love and telling a story of a community of people in the height of all of this that's happening. They are choosing to live their lives as best as they can whilst all this is going on. And I think, there are a host of people on the stage that I think no matter who you are as a person, no matter what background you come from, there's somebody on that stage that you can connect to at some point. And there's a piece of music in the show. There's a line in the show that you can connect to because there's a lot of music in the show and all really, really gorgeous music. But there are moments in the show where I'm like, to this day that I still do. And I'm like, wow, that really sticks out to me. Like, wow, that line really is gorgeous. And, obviously Seasons of Love is something, one of the most iconic songs in musical theater history, period. People come to hear that, but I think the story behind that song and how we get to that song, the beginning back to, and then what happens after that, really, I think, sends people on such a ride of like, oh my goodness, like this is, now I understand why this show has been around for as long as it has been. I don't want to give away any spoilers for those people who haven't seen it, but it's a tearjerker. It's funny. It's basically a rock concert, and it's a lot of fun. It's time for One Big Question with Javon King beyond the mic. Javon, as you do this physical role every day, jumping, singing, and you did it for the 20th anniversary tour of Rent, is it getting harder to recover? I mean, do you have to ice your body up more often? So a little more stretching. Yes. It's funny because when I first did this back in 20th anniversary, and I said before, I was 20 years old, I just turned 21. I literally was I was just walking out on stage, throwing my body all over the place, and it was fine. There were certain days back in when I first started that I wouldn't even stretch before the show. That simply doesn't happen anymore. Please know that does not happen anymore. I have to stretch before the show. I simply would not be able to jump off of everything I jump off and jump on everything I jump on if I don't stretch before the show. And I also am drinking gallons and gallons of water a day. But yes, it has changed. I do have to ice some things sometimes. The role is very physically demanding, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it so much. And I will say though, I'm used to it more than I was before. I think because I've done this show over 300 times, I think my body is so conditioned to it that the little aches and pains don't really do anything to me anymore. Those are just a day-to-day thing, little scratches here and there, little bumps and bruises here, just from jumping off the set and hitting my leg on something. Those things don't bother me. But I really just make sure to stretch before and after just to not get major injuries.
He was a cornerback and quarterback and ran the 400 in high school. Would have been in criminal law or a nurse had he not discovered his passion. He thinks Marilyn Monroe is still alive. Go see Javon King in the 25th anniversary edition of Rent. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
No, thank you. I really had so much fun. Appreciate it.
And that, my friends, is Beyond the Mic.